One thing that comes to my mind about the casting was that early on, when we wrote the script, we had a lot of ideas of just from friends that we had who could play certain parts. And Jim had ideas for some characters, and I had ideas for others. Some of them, the first idea we had, that was it. You know, we had this idea for this person, and that's who it was. With Keith, I think from the very beginning, Jim had an idea, maybe even when he wrote the character, that Kinthmas is going to be Keith St. Louis. That's who would be good for that part, and that's who we're going to get. Keith would do a good job at that. Both me and my brother had known Keith since we were young, and when my brother was in college, he got to know Keith better and lived in the same house with Keith for a while. Then other characters, such as Chang, I had an idea of a guy at my work who I thought, of all the people that I knew, I thought he might be good for that part. As it turned out, my best friend, Clint, Nathan Wolf, eventually took on that part, and he did a really good job with it. I had this idea for this. There was this girl that I was friends with, and I thought she would be great for Joe Harris. Well, for one thing, we never got around to doing any of the Harris scenes while we were in Minnesota and in our studio. We ended up not using her for the part, and eventually as Jim moved to Texas and met Holly, it became obvious to him, and then it became obvious to me too that she would be good for that part. Some of it went real smoothly, some of it just fit into place. Other parts, it was a real, you know, we'll try this, and it doesn't work, so then you go and you try something else. The Starfleet people that were in the movie were myself and my brother. Let's see, Michael Buford, who played Commander Cuddy, was a friend of mine. I had met Michael probably 2 or 3 years before we started filming. Both of us worked at the Star Tribune, and then as I started doing all the pre-production work, he was always watching what I was doing and giving me ideas, and we'd talk about it, and we had plenty of time to sit and talk because we were security guards in an empty building. The actor Patrick Scullin, who played D'Agosta, was an old friend of Jim's.
Yeah, I want to do one more thing here.
You want me to act?
He met him when he was in college at the University of Minnesota.
Clark Jones lived at the house where we filmed the bridge scene, so we just stuck him in a costume and turned him into an extra. Since Bafuzilek was down on the planet, we had to have another communications officer on the bridge, and so we got a friend of mine, Mark Savara, to fill in there. The red shirt that got zapped.
Ensign Ben Haley?
Yeah. The red shirt that got zapped, Ensign Ben Haley, is our brother-in-law.
Yep.
And he was new to our family at that time. And so when he agreed to be in a Star Trek movie that Josh and I were making, I don't think he really understood what kind of a commitment he was making.
We approached him about it, and he agreed, and like Jim said, I think when he agreed to that, I think he thought we were goofing around and that we would never make a Star Trek movie. And so he's like, yeah, sure, I'll be in your Star Trek movie.
Or that it would be something that we would do in an afternoon. We would do this little skit in an afternoon and then be done with it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think he had any clue that this was going to be something that I think his commitment lasted over like 2 years.
But since he was now related, he couldn't really back out of it very easily. So we did kill him off just as quickly as we could so that he wouldn't have to come down and put on that uniform anymore.
Yeah. Clint, who ended up playing Commander Chang, the Klingon commander, he was a friend of mine that I met when I was in 5th grade. We went to the same grade school.
So there.
Kinthmas supports
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I got it.
And became really good friends when we started junior high. And so he was involved with the project to begin with, just helping us out, doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. Some of the other Klingons. We had a Klingon lieutenant who was the Klingon who guarded the holding cell that Garevik was in. And that actor, his name was Keegan. He was a friend of Jim's. They both played in a rock band together. And that's how he met Keegan, and is friends with Keegan and had hung out with him. In addition to Keegan, Jeff Link portrayed one of the Klingons. In addition to doing the makeup and other things, he played the Klingon that got destroyed by the Andorian phase weapon. My friend Brian Peter played the Andorian spy.
Number 6-2, number 7. It's just what we expected.
He was seen a lot, but didn't have a lot of lines.
Hey, Mom.
There were a couple of times when we needed a Klingon and there was no one there. My dad had come by to tape what we were doing, and we didn't have anybody else to play Klingon, and we were able to convince him to come on and get in uniform and let us put some makeup on his face and make him into a Klingon. And I think he also, in one of the hallway scenes, he put on one of the Starfleet costumes and stood in the background. And